All right, folks, thank you for joining me for joining this Patreon channel. I think you're going to very, very important. Joining me right now for this special exclusive interview is Mike from around the world. Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, Pastor Paul.
Good, good, good. Mike, I've seen a video of a guy who says he is hauls a lot of large vehicles, and he was the company he works for gets some government contracts, and they have been moving ComEd trucks to New York City. Their job was to move 300 Edison trucks, ComEd trucks to New York City for some type of an event. And he doesn't know what it is, of course. And he posted this on a private Facebook page. It somehow got out there. People are calling me and inundating me. Do you know anything about it? What does this mean? And I just want to know, Mike, can you help us understand why in the world would 300 ComEd trucks and maybe more stuff be headed to New York City?
Well, those trucks can have different configurations, and I know that in the East Coast, New York being that primary center, has to be built up due to its density and what's in New York City for protection measures. Also, due to, and that's because of part of this trial. They really took the outcome of this trial seriously. And believe me, it's taken seriously, because either way, convicted or not convicted, there were going to be some issues, and there are other trials out there that will no doubt hit the airways soon enough, and people are going to be, well, back in angry mode again, and because people are so volatile. But number two, we've also had some issues. Russia has some issues, and everybody knows how in countries, sometimes you can have breakdowns in the chain of command. There seems to be some type of rogue element within Russia that could really cause some severe problems this time. So the defense net for the entirety of the East Coast is up. It's going to be reinforced. I think that folks will note some of the communications barriers. They're going to run into communications barriers of wherever this defense net is deployed. And so that and the outbreak from within would probably cover that, because, of course, with any large-scale civilian event, you have to have good communications. You also have to have jamming capabilities to stop coordinated efforts against the state.
So in other words, if this trial, whichever way it would go, and I just understand just now, it was released that the police officer there in the George Floyd incident there was found guilty of all three charges. But still, this event was so huge, no matter what the outcome of the verdict, America had to brace for major cities across the country of potentially a major violence or rioting or reaction, and maybe still have to. Do you think
we still do? Yes, we still do. If we're not out of the woods by any means.
And now, what could be when you say a defense net? What is a defense net, or can you share any of that?
Well, think of a defense net as something like a early detection system, early warning and detection system that would, otherwise pick up things that ordinarily would not be picked up, that can be intrusive in communications and really interrupt any ongoing assaults that will be taking place. So that's basically with electronics, with buildup of electronics equipment. You can tap into communications and disrupt things and tap things and reroute communications and everything else. But also, it gives clear space for missile guidance, missile interception, coordinates with the blimps, the blimp defense vehicles that are out there. They do sky observations, and so it coordinates with them also. Observation platforms, when they're deployed, they work with that defense net. and they kind of look like blurs. They move pretty fast. But and then at night, autonomous vehicles can also traverse the defense net for patrol purposes and further observations.
What about Russia? So you say there's some things happening in Russia. I mean, look,
military. They have an internal military problem. It from time to time, they had this a while back, but it really didn't go anywhere. So you have some people who take it upon themselves to act under their own orders, where no one has really issued them orders. They're having a problem right now with an internal faction of a rogue element, if you would, that could, where Putin, put it this way, where Putin would have restraint in certain military activities. A rogue element would not. They would go forward with attacks, assaults, whatever the case is, which is very dangerous because, to my understanding, it's very difficult right now to identify who is who. And that's
especially,
an issue.
is that especially in Ukraine area, or are we talking Syria as well?
It would be okay if it were in they've had factions in the Ukraine that kind of broke off because there's not a lot of command and control there in the Ukraine, not a lot. Most of that was centered in Moscow. Larger elements were deployed in Syria, of course, in the new naval station they have there, Russia has there in that province. But I believe this element is working broadly, meaning they probably cover portions of Ukraine and Syria. So they must be embedded in a higher position where they can actually, work with brigades, which is a problem.
Is New York City a target for Russia?
It's always a target. Always.
So that's that.
Intensity of the populace. The Middle Eastern folks that are against the U.S., they will always have New York as a target because they can make the greatest impact with the lesser amount of munitions. They're always going to do that. So New York is volatile too. But from the inside, from a domestic terrorist point of view, New York is also target number one. It's an area that is so dense, it's very difficult to get a handle on folks who would attempt to destroy the state from within. So observation equipment, electronics, and surveillance equipment is imperative for that area.
And apparently that threat is so real that these 300 ComEd trucks brought in, that's just a little bit of what was moved in there. I would say there was a whole lot more things that we don't know about, right, Mike?
Oh, I'd say so, yeah. If you notice, for the last, I'd say about the last 3 weeks, the National Guard has been shuffling pieces around all over the place, and there have been major deployments in cities from the National Guard. Now, the top reason that they published was due to the outcome of this trial. That was the top reason. But, the military normally deploys for, just to deploy for that, I can see that, but not with a range of
not the level, not the level that they're moving them. It's a greater challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And again, we could still have some major fallout from this. Major. It didn't really matter which direction it went into. I'll put it this way: if they would have pronounced him innocent, we would have seen somewhat of an instant problem. Something that protests and so forth. Right. But because he was considered guilty, we're going to have more of a coordinated problem. That means you're going to have elements within the U.S. rise up, coordinate, and retaliate is what we're going to have. And they will retaliate against major figures. And by the way, you now have large amounts of the Democratic Party who are threatened. They live day to day under a great deal of threats, and some of the conservative Republican Party are also facing threats. So we have an element within the U.S. that is still coordinating, and obviously they're just trying to capitalize on anybody they can to recruit and to obstruct or destroy this social framework that we have here. So it's a real issue. It's a real problem.
So the hostility on both sides is intensifying.
Oh yeah, big time. It was enough to mobilize the National Guard get coordinate and cooperate with Northcom for the purposes of that, stability in these places or containment if necessary. So, but that's still ongoing.
All right, Mike. I appreciate you giving us an answer on this, and appreciate you giving us your time. I really do, Mike.
No problem. No problem.
All right. Thank you guys for being a part of our Patreon channel, and we'll keep bringing more information to you. Obviously, because censorship, we can't bring it on the main social media networks, so we'll do it here or on our app. So thank you so much. All right, Mike.